welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I'm your host, Rich Owens, and joining me this week, we have the FM team, we have the United City FM, and we have Jebbaroo. Kev, we'll start with you, friend. How are we today? How's it going?
Oh, great. We're recording this for everybody on a Saturday morning. It's a bit grey and gloomy outside my back door, but actually, I'm doing very well. It's been a positive week in a lot of senses through the streams and everything else that I've been part of. I'm in a very, very good place, feeling very good, very happy to be here.
Glad to hear it, pal. Glad to hear it. It's a grey, gloomy Saturday morning. Where I live, it's incredibly misty and foggy, and there's just this beautiful little ray of sunshine in the top corner of my screen. It's Kev. There is other weather in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen.
Wow.
How are we doing, Jeb? How are we doing?
Well, yeah, I'm grey and gloomy. Actually, it's really nice here. The sun's out and everything. And there we are. But yeah, I know exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, if for people watching the podcast, watching the video version, I changed my lights because I had them set wrong. So they're right now. They're in the right FMT colours, all around there. But yeah, I'm an all right week. I've got 2 weeks with the house to myself, so I think that just means lots of football manager and various other things. Yeah, it should be
Mhm.
fine. So.
As it should be. As it should be. It's not very often that Mrs. O goes away with the kids and leaves me on my own. But my first thoughts every single time is like, I'm gonna sit and play Football Manager. There's no crazy parties. I'm not gonna have my friends round because they're all terrible people. I don't want them in my home where I live.
Hang on. Am I supposed to wait for my wife to go away for me to just spend all day playing Football Manager? I didn't read that memo.
I mean, it is optional. Sorry to Mrs. United City. It is there. It is an option for you if you would like to take it up. But it's not mandatory. But no, long FM sessions are what I tend to do when I have free time. So I'm incredibly jealous of you, Jeb. Incredibly jealous as always. So I look forward to the enormous amounts of content you're producing over the next few weeks. I think we all are. We will all be
Indeed.
looking forward to that. Now, before we continue with the show, there is a little announcement that we have to make. Unfortunately, it's a sad one. It's a sad announcement, but we're all sat here with the don't be sad because this is what's happened. Be happy because other nicer things have happened before it. You may have heard by the time this recording comes out that our wonderful friend Alice, FM girl, has decided to step away from the podcast. I think it's important that we emphasize at this point that there were no fallings out between anybody. We love and respect Alice, and all of us, ourselves here at FMT. I think the wider audience as well massively value the contributions that she's made towards the podcast, the short time that she was with us. Anytime you see our beautiful graphics, that's a little bit of Alice. They're wonderful. Everything that visually that you see kind of on socials, Alice has created. So Alice, from all of us, thank you. It's been a genuine pleasure getting to work with you. I've said it numerous times. I've said it on pod. I've said it to people privately as well. When I was handed the reins of FMT, I had a short list of 3 people that I really, really wanted to be involved. And I got all 3 of them. I wanted Alice, I wanted Jeb, and I wanted Kev. And the opportunity to get to work with Alice, even though it's only for a short period of time, was an absolute joy. She was brilliant fun. Her involvement in the network save, those kind comments were arguably my favourite part of the network save. And getting to meet her and hang out with her at FMT Live as well was an absolute joy. So Alice, thank you for everything. You're wonderful, and we love you, and we will miss having you around. So yeah, it's a sad thing, but I'm also delighted that it got to happen at all. So for the immediate short term, you will see the 3 of us, and then what happens in the future, who knows? But thank you, Alice. We love you, mate.
We do.
Um, we do,
Definitely.
we do. Look at that. See, I think the really nice thing about that is that I've got this disease where the more sincere I am, the more sarcastic I sound, and I think I did. Like it's genuinely a curse. So I was just to tell, I was really worried that was going to come across as like a yeah, cheers, mate, thanks. But no, it's so I think that was good. I hope it was as I hope it came across as sincerely as I meant it. Thank you, Alice. We love you,
Indeed.
mate. Um, Other things have happened though, in terms of the grand scheme of FM, because that's what we're really here to talk about. In the grand scheme of FM, it's been it's been a really interesting week in terms of the games. Because obviously, since we last recorded, those of you that have watched or listened to last week's episode will know that Kev and I had a little bit of a chat, shall we say? We had our debate about the general kind of state of Football Manager 23 and whether it was functioning correctly or not. There was a little poll that went up on Twitter, as we like to do after our debate sections. And then just as the poll was closing, SI decided to drop a massive patch addressing loads of the things that some of us might have been referencing in our very impassioned arguments about the state of the game. Firstly, I genuinely congratulations, Kev. You won the debate with
Why, thank you.
52% of the votes.
I
I know,
Yeah.
significantly closer than I thought it was going to be.
How many of those did you have to pay to back you is the question? Because, I mean, there were some very vociferous versions of your debate going around online, I saw.
Yeah, lots. A lot of people have been promised a lot of things that I'm definitely going to deliver on. Definitely.
Now that you've got it, are you giving a PC giveaway? Is that one of the things that you've done to get people?
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what's happened. I've bought a PC and I'm going to give something away to somebody, and it might even come in the box that my PC came in. You never know. You never know. That's probably not true. Actually, my children have made a fort out of it already. So sorry, guys. They're living in their beautiful box fort now, so you don't even get the box. It was significantly closer than I thought it was going to be. 52% to 48, I think, was the final margins.
Well, considering the game was actually really, really broken in lots of ways, and the company themselves actually had to admit it by putting a patch out, I was incredible. It was incredible that it was so close, to be honest.
Yeah, I think incredible is the word. Maybe there's a career in politics for me after this, because I did manage to convince a fair number of people that, hey, no, it's not the game's fault. It's kind of your fault. Yeah, it's looking at the list of things they've addressed in the patch. It basically it goes along with it. Everything. There's a lot of people have been saying that they've been struggling about the game with. But genuinely, congratulations, Kev. You put up a beautifully well phrased argument, and I would take my hat off to you if it didn't involve taking my headphones off as well, which I'm just too lazy to do.
Hat
Plus,
hair is
underneath
a
here-
bad thing.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I looked in the mirror this morning. Maybe I can fix this in time for pod, and then I just put a hat on. So the answer is a powerful no. A powerful no. So it's really interesting. To the right of me now, as I'm looking at my screen, there are two people that have won debates. So congratulations to both of you boys. It must feel nice.
It must
Yep.
do, and it does.
Yep. Top of the league and undefeated.
I know. Jeb just can't stop winning. It's a curse.
Yep,
It
I
really
know.
is a curse. You wait. He's going to win the lottery this week and just not tell us. So yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing. The patch is out. It's a big one as well. It's a big one. We've had a bit of a read through of the patch notes over the last couple of days. Now, I'll hold my hands up here. I haven't had a huge amount of time on the game since the patch was released, but I think of the three of us, I think Jeb has definitely logged the most hours with it so far. I mean, we'll come to you, pal. Is there anything massive that you've noticed in terms of kind of what they've addressed with the patch? You know, one of the biggest things being defenders' behavior, defenders' decision making. Is there anything that you've noticed while you've been playing the game that is significantly different to how it was running, for example, this time last week?
Yeah, I lost my first game 2-0, so the game's broken. It's really, really broken. It's unbelievable. Absolutely fuming. I mean, what have they done to it? Everything's going so well for me. I think it's quite hard for me to judge on where the game. Obviously, I've seen off other people's streams and videos and various things, but the way my Pescara save was going, and similar with Wolves as well, I didn't actually notice those defender problems. There was obviously issues, but what I've noticed is like those little extra quality of life things that they've added to there. So I think it was one that I mentioned to Kev yesterday was there's a little thing that comes up on your assistance report during the game now that says you have 3 breaks and 5 substitutions remaining, because the amount of people that are going, oh, it's broken, I can't make any more subs. It's just stopped me making subs after so many times because they don't know the rules of football nowadays. But granted, trying to keep up with all the rule changes and all the VAR changes and things like that is quite difficult to do. I think, like I said, I think it's interesting defenders. Like I said, they've not changed too much for me because Pescara are quite a dominant team in Siriche. And once I get out of there, it might change a little bit, but I won't be able to see it that way. I did have a nightmare on the beta with Wolves, and there were some very questionable decisions. So hopefully they've been wiped out. It was always the fullbacks where they had a run out, they'd lose the ball, and then just stand there. But if you watch Trent Alexander-Arnold play this season, it's quite similar to how he plays. So I don't know what that type of thing. Like I said, I think judging by the amount of people that have come back to streaming, your IDF tactics and various other people who are coming back and actually playing the game again rather than playing different games, I think that says a lot about where the patch is at the moment. I know there are a couple of bugs still out there. I think there's some issues with free kicks and corners where defenders are standing next to each other, almost holding hands. I think that's been pointed out by various few people, but I think judging by the general feeling of the community, it's a positive thing. People are enjoying it a lot more because those bugs have been fixed.
I'm really scared by it. I've got a real dilemma. I'm really scared by the patch because for the last month, I've blamed everything on the fact that this game is broken to the fact that I got sacked in the beta and sacked in my main. What if I get sacked now moving forward and I still can't make it work? I'm really genuinely scared. I don't want to play it anymore. I'm going to go and play something else for the next 3 months instead of everyone else now because I just can't bear the thought I still might lose.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think we've had previously on pod, there's been a split in the dynamic. We had Kev and we also had Alice who were just doing really, really well at the game, and we've had Kev and I who are also playing the game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting now to see if it's going to if it fixes the things that I've been struggling with, and it makes me more competitive at the game, especially in my kind of streaming saves, then I'll be delighted. But if I carry on losing, then like as I say, there's no safety net. There's nothing to fall back on now. For a man that put up such an impassioned argument about the game not being broken, having had a little read through some of the things that they've looked into, like looking at the key changes, for example, especially when it comes to the defensive side of things, reducing the frequency of defenders and giving the ball away in and around the box. That is something that I would say I concede quite a few goals to. Ditto defenders' decision making when it comes to aerial balls. Improve corner defending. If you've been watching any of my streams over the last kind of 2-3 weeks, I conceded a lot of goals from set pieces, especially corners. So if that's something that starts to kind of come down, you would argue that the results are going to start going my way and things might getting a little bit better. If that keeps happening, I will have to sit there and just come to the conclusion that it's me and I'm just bad at the game, which I don't want to have to do. Because I enjoy it, and there's no fun in being bad at something that you enjoy. So there will be a lot of soul searching if that continues. But I think you made an incredibly valid point, Jeb. The fact that it's bringing people back to the game, members of the community seems to be enjoying it more. You've got more people streaming the game again. That can only be a good thing for FM in the long run.
And I think it will breed with the PvP scene as well. I think being in the back room, the playoffs type of thing, trying to get players for this playoffs has been quite difficult because I think people are afraid to play it because the various issues with the game and along those lines of things established. I think that PvP scene will probably kick on from this week onwards. Granted, as we head in the Christmas break, but I think looking at everyone who watched, I forget what tournament it was this week, but there was a tournament on this week, and everyone said that the gameplay looked a lot better and there wasn't any of those issues that they've experienced in some of the community drafts already. So I think that's definitely a positive because that's quite key to the community side of things nowadays, the PvP scene, doing drafts, etc.
Absolutely. We've obviously got the return of the playoffs coming up over the next few weeks. Path to the playoffs 1 and 2. After this, at the time you're watching or listening to this episode, I think Path to the Playoffs 1 will have already started. And it's an interesting one because, as you say, it kind of makes people feel a little bit more like they're in control of what's happening on the pitch. If you're not having to worry about the potential random mistakes or issues with the match engine. But again, just from a very, very selfish point of view, I wanted to watch the chaos unfolding. I'm absolutely, some men just want to watch the world burn. So I think watching a Path to the Plus where every game finishes 7-6, I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be, for the casual viewer, maybe it wouldn't have been an awful thing to have happened, but of course it would. So as you say, if it's the kind of thing that's going to bring people back to the PvP scene, or as you said,
I don't
PvC.
think that 7-6 thing is going to change though, because people are stupid enough and will go attacking on every game, or they'll push out that way, and it will be that type of way. That's what makes the drafting scene quite exciting. I think in path to the playoffs last year, I think we had 2 0-0 draws in like the whole space of 4 game days, or four entire like match evenings. So I think there's always going to be goals scored there. I don't think there's going to be an issue.
No, exactly. Plus, sometimes it's just fun to see people get a little bit grumpy sometimes, isn't it? Let's be honest. So, and I know I would absolutely be, if based on my previous path to the playoffs experiences, being on kind of the gameplay side of things rather than the panel side of it. Yeah, I think just adding that extra bit of just RNG into the mix is going to make you just a little bit, it's going to make for good viewing. But no, I'm looking forward to that. And as you say, if it's going to encourage more people to get back into kind of the PvP kind of side of the thing, then again, I'm excited. I mean, Kev, I'll have a chat with you about the state of the affairs. Is there anything that you've kind of seen on the list? Is there anything that you've that kind of stood out to you in terms of the fixes that they've made? That's something that you've gone, that's going to massively benefit me in terms of my saves or how I play the game?
There's stuff that's going to massively impact positively my mental health whilst watching the game. Definitely, I will tell you that for certain, because there are some aspects that drove me nuts. It's a really strange thing. This is a game that we all love and we all put a lot of time into and played quite a lot over the last month since the launch of it. And yet we can sit here as a 3 and we can say our versions of it have seemingly been very different. I can tell you that everything that I spoke about last week in terms of the game being broken, I have experienced in my game. The amount of times my defenders just stood there and literally did nothing to impact the ball as it came towards them, and the striker took it, ran past them, got in front of goal and put it behind the goalkeeper into the back of the net. Drove me nuts. Absolutely, because you sit there and you think, well, I don't know how to counter that. I've got perfectly good defenders and they're doing nothing about it. But it was there are more things on top of it. I think I've seen over the last day or so a few people talk about the amount of penalties that are now being given out post patch. I think pre-patch they were pretty prevalent as well, and that still concerns me a little bit that some things are being played out by the match engine and being used like that to affect the game on one side of things more than the other. If I'm coming up against a big team and they get a penalty in the first minute, it began to feel like they were using that as a match engine just to give them the boost up that their status in the game seemed to warrant, if that makes sense, and put you on the back foot immediately. So I don't know if it's a thing or not, but yeah, there's lots of things. But the most important thing to me is if I can put 2 central defenders, or 3 if you choose to play a back 3, in my team, and ultimately they actually clear headers, and if they get the ball, they don't just give it to the striker in front of them, I'll be incredibly happy about that. But genuinely, I do have real concerns about playing, because what if I'm still rubbish? It's not a bit. It's not a bit. There is a moment in there that I thought, yeah, I genuinely feel like I've been sacked twice, partly because of this match engine. But what if it's not?
Just for balance on my thing, I think I've played 10 games since the patch has come out. 2 penalties in all those games, so it's depending on what type of system people are playing. Are you playing get stuck in? You might give away a fair few penalties. It's
Sure.
that type of way. So it's it'll be interesting to see if it is a case of, if you are getting stuck in, it will punish you a little bit more now, because it was, I think it was beforehand anyway.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I wasn't really playing full on deck them every 10 seconds if you can. Just not in my nature, is it really, to play that aggressively, to be honest? But too much conflict, I don't like it. But even so, you were getting like 3 penalties in like 5 games or whatever it was. And it just felt that whether it's for or against you didn't really bother me either way. It just felt like it was too easy a way to get a result going in whichever way the game kind of wanted it. It felt that way to a very jaded, beaten up, sacked twice manager, to be honest. That's what it felt like.
I think that would be fantastic balance though, if you played like proper industrial football, like we get stuck in and everything. You just thought, oh, I'm terribly sorry about that. Never mind. Oh, he's broke his leg. What a shame. Anyway, I hope he recovers. Anyway,
Have I
and
got a
carries on.
have I got to channel my inner Millwall?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everyone likes me. I don't care. So go for that one.
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's and there are some of the things on here that, and it's I've had a little look through some of the list myself as well. And as I was saying, like Kev, I don't want the safety net of being able to necessarily blame faults with defensive decision making, for example, that is why I'm struggling in certain saves. But I'm looking at some of the other bits and pieces that they've put in. And when I first read through the list, I was like, oh, that's really weird. Maybe I haven't experienced any of that. But then the more I'm looking through it, and you start looking back at kind of goals you've conceded, games you've struggled in, and you're thinking to yourself, actually, maybe some of these things were in there. One of the things they've highlighted is fix rare issues, and I would say rare is a little bit of an exaggeration. Rare issues where an offside goal was incorrectly given. Definitely been on the receiving end of that more than once this year already. I think where was it? Fixed rare issue where players are inclined to shoot at very close range first time. Yep, that's again something I've definitely been on the receiving end of more than once. Players just hitting it first time instead of taking a touch whilst unmarked and then slotting it somewhere, rather than just going full on laces and then just seeing where the ball ends up. Apparently, tweaks to VAR are being made less predictable as well. Because again, it's most of the time if a decision goes to VAR, you've got a good feeling about which way it's going. So apparently that's being looked at. Again, something that I think I've experienced once or twice. The one that really speaks to me, though, the one that I'm absolutely delighted with, increases the use of a segundo volante by AI managers where appropriate. Yes, I want at least one segundo volante every single game I'm playing. If there's less than that, I'm going to be absolutely furious. I mean,
Does
in a
that
game,
mean? I was going to say, does that mean that 3-5-2 formation where they have two defensive midfielders, both of them are going to be segundo volantes?
if they're
It's
not,
just-
I'm going to be so angry. I'm going to be so angry. Yeah, but they're like 7 at the back with 2 segundo volantes.
Yep.
That's peak. Is everything okay at home behavior? And again, I'm absolutely here for it. As a man who definitely on stream at one point has had a slight breakdown, played a formation with 5 trequartistas. I think minimum 2 segundo volantes is yes, please, more of that kind of behavior. FM. As you say, all in all, going through all the bits and pieces that they've kind of worked on the major fixes, especially. I think it can only be to the game's benefit. I don't think I've seen anything in there that I think would be detrimental to the overall experience of playing the game. So I'm excited to see. I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. I'm excited to see the positive impact it has on our content, our saves, and other people in the communities as well. Because as we say, the more people playing the game, the better. FM is for everybody, and please just give it a download, give it a try, because it is brilliant fun. Despite 3 really tired looking cross men just being really upset about all of our saves at the moment, it is great fun. So I cannot recommend it enough.
It's really important, Rich. I think that we also
Mm.
highlight the fact that the company, whilst there's been some malignment against them over the last month for putting out something that was challenged in its execution a little bit, they cared enough to do something about it. And it's only been about a month since the game came out, and that's not that long to make all of this sort of change. And there are many other companies out there that would have just gone, oh well, that's the game you got, play it, basically. So I really appreciate that, and they've been transparent enough to put something out and say what they've changed as well. I think that's encouraging in a lot of ways. So whatever it is you thought about the state of the game when it first came out and what they've done to this year's game, whether they put the new feature in that you wanted or not, this is a company that listen. It is a company that cares about their product, and they're trying their very best to do the best with it. And I think it's worth just pointing that out occasionally.
100%.
And most importantly, they fix some of the scattergraphs. I mean, I'm
Oh, well,
really
that's
happy
it then.
about that. Yeah, exactly. It's a complete game now.
Do you
Exactly.
like a good scatter graph, Jeb?
I do like a good scattergraph. I do like the data, so
Yeah.
especially when I love it. Like Haaland's always the one, isn't it? Or somebody along that. I've got it on Vagani with especially with the strikers in clinical finishing. He's like up here, like off the screen almost in the top corner, away from everybody else. It's great to see. Don't like them all
Exactly.
mixed up in the middle.
Exactly. That's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah.
I demand visual representation of how good some of my players are. Although, if you are listening, SI FM24 Venn diagrams, please. I do enjoy a Venn diagram. I'm not sure how it would be appropriate, but just if you could just squeeze one in there for your old pal Rich, I'd appreciate it. I'd like to echo Kev's sentiments as well. I think sometimes when it comes to video games of any kind of type, it's very, very easy just to view the company that make them or the people that put them out as this just anonymous entity. SI are, for my money, one of the most community-driven, companies out there. They're very they're out there on social media. They engage very, very heavily with their player base. So I think, as you say, sometimes it's almost the prerogative of somebody who plays video games to kind of direct anger at anonymous publishing company, anonymous maker of game, which when it comes to your massive developers, there's always that thing when it comes to people like who play games like FIFA, for example. They're like, we hate you, EA, you're terrible. And whilst they're not wrong a lot of the time, it's just that anonymous
Yeah.
big corporation. It's you, big video game. SI are they're good people. They're good people. People from SI came to FMT Live in Nottingham last month. We've as members of the community who interact with other members of the community, we've got friends who work there. We've got friends who are involved in the company, and full well through knowing those people like Holly, for example, working in things like community management. Their best interest is always going to be in providing the best possible game for us and making the improvements where possible. So genuinely thank you for that. It's something that is worth bearing in mind. To release a patch of this nature, 3-4 weeks into the game, they've listened and they want everyone's experience to be better. And I don't think you can really complain about that too much. So cheers, guys. Thanks for game. Thanks for Segundo Volantes. I appreciate it. You've done that for old Rich. That's very, very sweet of you. So I think we've covered the patch quite nicely there, fellas. I think we've done a good job. In terms of positivity. However, when it comes to Football Manager, that regardless of patches and people's individual experiences, there are always going to be little bits and pieces that just get you down a little bit. And we've realized here at FMT that that the T in FMT stands for therapy. And we do have arguably the kindest human being in existence.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And when
Yeah.
he's not available, we've also got Kev. So we've got Jeb and we've got Kev. And we figured who better to just make us maybe feel a little bit better about some of the problems we're experiencing with the game than a very, very kind man like Kev. So it's a brand new little feature on the podcast. It's basically Kev's Football Manager therapy couch. And what we're going to do, we're going to take turns lying on the couch and just talking through some of our problems and some of the things that we're struggling with. And Kev's probably going to make us feel better about it, regardless of what he says, because he's got a really kind face. And I thought, who better to kick this off than your old pal Rich, because
Because you're rank, you're got so much angst in you. Is that the problem?
Oh, I'm like an onion. I smell bad and I will make you cry. There's so much negativity there. So many problems. Surface level, deep down inside as well. But I thought, just in the spirit of fairness for Kev, we'll go surface level because nobody needs to hear that. It's like, how was this week's podcast? Yeah, it was 4.5 hours long, and it started really well, but then it got weird. Yeah, Rich was just calling everyone dad. Very, very strange. So I thought, Kev, for your first assignment as designated kindest man in the world, Kev, there's an aspect of the game that I've been struggling with.
Okay.
And I'm anybody who's watched my content, especially streaming wise over the last 3 or 4 months, will know that I have a bit of a soft spot for players in my starting 11 who have really, really, really good attributes in areas like free kick taking. I love a free kick. I love a set piece goal. Don't love conceding them as much, but I love scoring them. And the problem I've got, Kev, is that I'm just not scoring them. It's just not happening for me. I'm signing players specifically designed to score free kicks. I've signed the Peruvian James Ward-Prowse in my Atletico San Luis save. Last year on FM22, in Mad Scientist database, shout out Mad Scientist, love you. I signed a goalkeeper by the name of Chilavert, who has obscenely high free kick taking abilities. And during that save, Chilavert scored one free kick in pre-season against somebody like a Millwall, so it didn't count. And so far, my Peruvian JWP, Tavara, has done nothing for me. And Kev, it's just making me really sad.
Well, I hear this is when you go into immediate counsellor mode. I hear what you're saying, Rich.
Thank you, Kev. I feel heard. I feel listened
I
to.
knew my counselling qualification of 20 years ago would come into effect at some point in the future. I didn't expect it would be here, but okay, it's fair enough. Right, so we can look at a couple of things. The first thing is ultimately you can only do so much, Rich. You're a busy manager doing a lot of things. You set out tactics. You ask them to kick a football around in midweek and train and get better at stuff. There's only so many things you can do, my friend, to really impact what's going on. And you can bring the best free kick taker in that you can possibly bring. But here's what I'd like you to have a look at next time you're on your game. Go and check out your main free kick taker or two, however many you've got in your club, and also look at things like decision making and composure, because it's not just an attribute on its own, is it? It's not just I can kick a free kick and it will go everywhere that I want it to go. You're going to have a few other bits and pieces, so make sure you're doing that as well. In terms of delivering the free kicks in, you've also at times you've got to have somebody on the end of it if it's not a direct free kick, for example, and make sure that they've got all the composure and the jumping reach if you want them to be a good header and the height, etc. So don't just blame your free kick taker, Rich. Go and talk to the rest of your team about it as well. But here's my thought: more than anything else, ultimately, you being a very busy guy and you having sorted all of these things out, it might still be that you don't get many free kicks, my friend, and they don't go into the back of the net. And here's the other reason, and it's something that you have to celebrate whilst being the opposition to them. The opposition might be really good. It might not all be your fault, Rich. It might not all be your players' fault. It might be that other teams are very, very good. So, what I need you to do this week, Rich, here's your challenge. I need you in your environment where you play Football Manager, take a few deep breaths, stick your chest out, take ownership of your team, and whatever happens, here's the thing: whatever happens, know that your identity as a person isn't based around your free kick taking in Football Manager, and it will be all right. Okay. That's my thought for you. But yeah, genuinely, in game, it's this really weird thing, isn't it? Ultimately, you think I've got a 17 or an 18 person for free kick attribute, but if they haven't got good decisions and they haven't got good composure and they haven't, other bits and pieces in there, then ultimately they're gonna give it their best shot, but there's still something missing. But we can never take out the opposition as a contributing factor. So come back to me next week and tell me whether a different attitude has spread to your players because of your different attitude towards them. We'll see. Is that enough bump for you?
Perfect. Dr. Jebbaru, you also have a point to make here.
Yeah, just a really simple one. Are you trading set pieces?
Occasionally.
Well, this is the thing. It's been talked about a lot, isn't it? This set piece builder and the new set piece stuff that people want in the game. And do you want a set piece coach and all that kind of stuff? There is still things within the game that you can do within your training setup to boost the potential of free kicks. Now, this is part of the game that I'm really bad at. The whole training side. If you come onto my streams, I genuinely do not touch it, because every time I do, within 3 months, half of my players come to me and they say, I'm really frustrated with the balance of the training and the blah, 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 and the such like. So I go, okay, assistant, sort that one out for me. And then it runs okay. Nobody complains and I leave it to it. But in theory, Jeb is absolutely, of course, he's right. If you can go in there and identify an issue that you've got and actually put something into your training schedule that might help you, there's another alternative as to how
Yeah.
you can improve, obviously.
And I think it's one of those, if you can throw it in every couple of weeks or at least once a month, you do see the benefit, and you almost get that in your report afterwards. Oh, we scored from a corner because we trained set pieces this week, that type of way, or we defended better. So it's, I think, pushing on those side of things. I mean, I am very much I have my schedules that I borrow from a well-known tactics person that rhymes with BTF. No, it's not really going to work, is it? RDF's tactics. I use his training schedules anyway, but you can still edit them and add in those set pieces and
Are you
defending and
talking
attacking
about
and stuff.
Rich does football tactics? Is that who you were talking about?
No, definitely not.
No,
No.
Oh, okay.
definitely
No,
not.
fair enough.
Definitely
That's why I score from free kicks. So there we are.
So here's the thing, Rich. Okay, ultimately, do you feel like you've been heard?
I feel like I feel like my feelings have been acknowledged, and I feel heard, and I feel seen, and I appreciate you both. I think the thing I appreciate most is the fact that when Jeb put his hand up, I was expecting him to say, "Get good, just be good at free kicks." What's wrong with
Well,
you?
yeah, you need to do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there is
Sorry.
there is that aspect of it as well. It's like, yeah, why are you bad at them?
Yeah.
So
So
here's the thing that I'd like to say to conclude the Kev's football manager therapy couch section, right? And it can be, again, we at the beginning of the podcast we talked about Alice, and you talked about every time you're sincere, it makes you sound like you're coming off as like, "Yeah, not really, but I'm trying." I want this to be really sincere because we have a laugh and we have a joke, but a lot of people take Football Manager very, very seriously and get caught up in a lot of aspects of it that aren't quite going right. Trust me, I know defenders have been the bane of my life for the last month, and I've really felt it. I genuinely have. But it is really important that within the context of putting so many hours into this game and winning and losing, and sometimes losing more than winning stuff, that we don't let it affect how we perceive ourselves actually in real terms. And it's really easy to do, and it can affect mental health really badly. So please, anybody out there, for the next few weeks, we're going to do these sorts of segments occasionally, and some of it will be flippant stuff and some of it will be more meaningful, impactful stuff. And whether it's Jeb asking something, or Rich, or even myself bringing something for the table, or if there's anybody else out there that wants to contribute to this section of the podcast, and just hear me say to Joe Blogs out there, you are a perfectly good human being. It's all going to be fine. And we all love and support you because you are a great member of our community, etc. If that's what you need to hear, then write in, tweet me, tweet the podcast thing, give us anything for this particular segment. And if all you just want is someone to acknowledge you and say you're a good person, come to me and I'll tell you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to say that Football Manager's a distraction. That's what it should be. It should be a nice distraction to life, and I think that's the way it is. Life might not be great at the time, but playing something like Football Manager is a great distraction. It's a good way to just to immerse yourself into another environment along those lines. And I think, don't take it too seriously. And to be fair, if you're a streamer or anything along those lines, sometimes the streams are more interesting when you're actually losing and those little bits are going on. But just don't
Oh,
take it
trust me,
personally.
they are.
Yeah, don't take it personally. Never take it personally. It's an enjoyable thing, and you're entertaining people essentially along those lines on the streaming side of things. And even if it's not going right save, go do another one. Like if it gets to that point, just quit and start another save. Don't quit and reload. Don't do that type of thing. No. Nobody likes those type of people. But you can do that if you want to, but just don't tell anyone.
exactly, yeah. Keep that behaviour on the. There's
Yeah.
nothing to be ashamed of apart from maybe that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And as you say, this entire pod, the football manager therapy as an entity was born of two people wanting to do something good during a very, very difficult time for the entire world. You know, this was born of pandemic, and two people who wanted to have a good chat about things based around a game that they both enjoyed. And that is at its essence what Football Manager is. It's a game there for us to enjoy, and sometimes it can get frustrating, but it's not the end of the world if it is. It's a game that is there for us, And yeah, like I say, just start a new save. Just go and be good somewhere for a little bit. Make yourself feel better about yourself. That's what I like to do. I've definitely done that over the last few years. Just started saves and just done really well at them, just temporarily, just to make me feel like I'm a little bit better at it than I originally thought I was. Kev, that was beautiful, mate. Thank you very, very much for that. And as I say, there will be more of this kind of thing on podcast moving forwards. Just to echo Kev's sentiments, tweet us, tweet the pod, tweet Kev. We've got a Discord that's linked in the that will be in the description for this video. It's in the description for the audio episodes as well. Come and hang out with us on there. I think we'll genuinely put a Kev's football manager therapy couch section in there. So if you have anything you would like us to talk about during this part of pod, please do let us know. And we'll be happy to do so. Genuine pleasure to be able to interact with audience and talk about things you would like us to talk about. On the subject of talking, obviously, I think our debate section has really been doing well over the last couple of weeks. It's a really welcome addition to podcast. This week, we're going to have another one. This week is no exception. We have got this week the two winners going head to head. Imagine winning a debate. Overrated, massively overrated. Unless I'd won one, then the greatest experience known to mankind. This week, our debate is going to take place between Jeb and Kev, the United City FM, and Jebaroo. I think for full debate effect, I think I'm going to press this button here, and then I'm going to. Oh, there we go. Jeb and Kev are big now. They have the floor.
Look
they
at Tiny
have the
Rich.
floor. Oh, I'm so wee. If you, it's true. It's true. If you came to FMT Live, you will know that this is actually an accurate ratio of sizes. This is 1-to-1. I'm just really small. Or I'm a regular size human being, and Jeb and Kev are just massive. Let's go with that one.
Let's.
Right then, guys. So this week's debate that was suggested by one of the two people who are about to take part in it. This week's debate is based around attribute masking. Attribute masking. There we were a few seconds ago saying play the game however you want, play the game however you like, but also some of us have very strong opinions on whether you can see all of the numbers when you look at a player's name. My understanding is that Jeb is going to be making the argument for playing with attribute masking turned on. Kev is going to be making the argument for attribute masking turned off. Fellas, is there anybody that feels very passionately about going first?
Not especially either way. I'm happy to, but if Jeb wants to, by all means, be my guest.
I'm just going to sit on the fence as well. It's your decision, Rich.
It's my decision, right? Well,
Yeah.
because the way that I'm looking at the screen, Jeb is on the left-hand side. Jeb, you can get the ball rolling, mate. 2 minutes of your time to make a compelling argument for why people should be encouraged to play the game with attribute masking turned on. The floor is yours, pal.
Okay, attribute masking. One of the most beautiful things in Football Manager is a scouting system. Finding those hidden gems, finding them along those lines. You look around at players and you have, especially with attribute masking on, you have a slight inkling into what they're like, and it gets better and better as your scout works their way through. Attribute masking turned off is like a cheat code. It's like putting the bumpers on at the bowling alley. It's like the Konami code. It's like you might as well start the game up and do up, down, left, right, A, and start. That's what you might as well do at the start of the game, because you basically can see everything about every player that you need to. You can go into the player search and you can search all the attributes that you want to do, and you can just find a player immediately. It takes away the entire scouting system. Granted, director of football are completely useless on the game, so there's no point in using them anyway. But scouts, you get in all those fantastic scouts like Stefan Chapuisat. I mean, he's always a golden person to get in as a scout along those lines. But it's a great way of discovering the players. You actually find them. It takes a little bit longer, but once you find that hidden gem, once you find that amazing player, it's one of the most beautiful things, because you've made the effort to find them rather than just putting in some numbers into a search bar. That's pretty much where I am.
I mean, there you go. It's it's a compelling opening argument, and also I really appreciated the champion reference. That was very lovely, very lovely. Kev, the floor is yours, mate. Please talk to us why you believe that playing the game with attribute masking turned off is an enjoyable and relevant experience.
Okay, so as I could start off, not going to, but I could start off and say, just because I'm a streamer, it's important for me to have them visual, so I can get all of my viewers interacting with finding players and looking at what we like and what we don't like. But we're not talking about streaming; we're just talking about playing FM. So the simple reality for me is, it is not head coach 23. This is Football Manager 23. And when I think about football managers, I think of the most recent history of our English Premier League game. And I think about the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, who has a finger in every single part of every aspect of all of the club. Now, for me to do that, I want to be able to go and impact every part of my club. And with the attribute masking on, it feels like I'm too beholden in my fantasy place of playing a video game to get away from everything else, of going and finding that next generation superstar for myself. I want to be able to go into my world, find the person that I've identified that nobody else has, because it's a randomly generated person, 10 years into the game, and bring them into my team because I found them and know that I'm doing a great job. It's part of what's building me up as a player of a game in a fantasy world, is to actually go and do these things myself. Now, granted, I don't do the training. We don't talk about that, but I do love the scouting aspect of Football Manager. It's my favorite part of the game, is to be able to spend a couple of hours in between seasons and go and try and build up my team to look better next time round. I love it. It is absolutely my 100% best and favorite part of the game. And to do it, I need a little bit of opportunity to be able to go and compare and contrast. So what you're going to do, Jeb, take away the most amount of joy that I get from playing Football Manager by having to rely 4 weeks later on somebody that might say it's all right, but then ultimately, has he really got the ability to judge? Who knows? It's just so random. I want to be in control. I want to be in charge of it. Attribute masking absolutely can be there to aid or deny you knowledge if you want to. I want it because it's my world, my fantasy, and I want to find the next golden generation myself.
Beautiful. Although I do feel like potentially you've asked the wrong person. Do you want to take joy away from me? Jeb, the floor is yours for the next minute to make counter arguments based on what you've just heard from Kev.
Yeah, before we start that minute, maybe we shouldn't do the debate after the couch, after we've all been really nice to each other.
Yeah.
Just saying on that one. I mean, do I want to take the joy? Anyway, do I want to take the joy away? The joy is finding those gems, but find those gems after you've had your scouts work their way through them. I think you said it's not head coach simulator. If I actually move my head slightly, not that way, there's a picture of Jonesy in space. There's also a picture of Brian Clough and Bill Shankly. Brian Clough used to send Peter Taylor out to find players. Bill Shankly used to send out Bob Paisley and Ronnie Moran to go finding players and go watch those type of players. That's what they were doing. They were scouting in those days. They had a slight inkling of what the player might be about, and that's exactly what attribute masking does. And that scout will then find out the further information. You push it further and further. You can get your scouts up to 10, 15 scouts when you're in the bigger leagues, but in the smaller leagues, even with the 2 or 3 people, you can find out all those attributes, but it's actually earning your way of getting them. That's the joy of it. That's where the fun is on the side of it, especially on the Wonder Kids, especially when those new gens come in and they appear. You can go send a load of scouts out to Brazil and you can find that next Wonder Kid. You can find the next Neymar, etc. That's where the joy is. That's where it is for me. Sorry to take away the joy for you, Kev. Boo-hoo.
There we go. We've talked earlier about sarcasm, sincerity, master sarcasm. I don't think there was any sincerity there, especially with the crying hands. Love that. Kev, finally, the floor is yours. Take it away.
So the one thing that I'm not saying is don't use your scouting network. Absolutely. They are there for a reason. I have put a scouting network in there for a reason, and I do get them to do stuff. But primarily what I want them to do is back up my own thoughts a little bit with a little bit of data, but leave me with the opportunity to identify and then decision make on in and around that. And I feel personally for me that the game is so there's so many aspects to the game. There's so many things that you can do that this one thing of just being able to look around and draw players in that I really, really want because I can see what they are is just the best way to play Football Manager. Yes, I understand that you can have 10 people all going and doing everything at your behest. It's absolutely lovely and great. If you need a bunch of minions to make yourself feel great, then go do it. It's brilliant, fantastic. But for me, I want to just go and find those players, identify them. And the best one for me is not going and buying Endrick. It's about buying somebody 6 years in the game that nobody else has spotted but me. And that's what I love. And to do it, unfortunately, I need that freedom with the attribute masking off, on, whichever way around. It confuses me all the time. But I want the numbers. I want to look and compare and contrast because I'm a sado and I'll spend 4 hours doing it in a transfer window. It was probably over a minute. I don't know whether it makes any difference. But again, the viewers, I think you're looking very lovely this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whenever you're looking and watching and listening to this podcast.
Because Kev's gone over a minute, I just want to just put one extra
Go for
point
it.
on there. Endrick didn't sign for Dynamo Kiev. That's all I'm putting.
He was a pooey head. I gave him everything. I promised him the world, and he went meh. And I thought, well, yeah, that was your one chance. I'm never signing him on FM23 ever now.
Well, I'm on the fence.
Get off
honestly,
my fence.
No, it's it's comfortable and it's warm and it's friendly. It's a sitted hug. It's beautiful. For the third week in a row, um, it's really hard to call. It's really, really, really hard to call. I think compelling arguments made by both sides there. So, as always, we'll put it over to you, the audience. Please do democracy. Please vote in our Twitter poll, which will be up on Tuesday after the pod is out for everybody. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your feelings. I've got to say, the level of engagement we got from yourselves, the audience, from the wider community about the our kind of conversation over the general state of the game was brilliant. Kind of going through those comments and listening to people's opinions, listening to people's thoughts was a really, really, really interesting read. Including somebody who said that they were begrudgingly agreeing with me. So thank you. I will take begrudging any day of the week. I'll absolutely take that. It's very, very kind of you. So yeah, appreciate that. Do voting, and then obviously we will announce the winners of that. Or what you'll see for yourselves. You'll see for yourselves kind of towards the middle of Thursday evening next week. You'll know. You will know. Now, normally on a Thursday evening, you would see us all sitting down to play the network game together, and the results of the polls come in just before the network game starts. So there's always going to be something for us to have a little chat about, and for some people to have a little gloat about once the game starts. However, the week that you are watching this podcast, if you're watching it the week that it is released, is a little bit of an anomaly because the network game won't be around this week. If you're watching this on Tuesday, you might have already seen the three of us on Monday night. Well, taking part in the panel for one of us will be hosting. It's not me. Really, really excited about not having to host something. Really, really excited about that. We'll be taking part in the panel for Past the Playoffs 1 for the FM playoffs. So you'll get, if you want to see us together, and also, so am I, Jeb, I'm confused with timescale. Am I allowed to say who else is on at this point? Because it
Yes,
will
of
have
course
already
you can.
happened. It will already
Yes.
have happened, so it's fine. The passage of time is weird and confusing. The three of us, and if you thought what this panel, what this group of people needs is just somebody aggressively handsome to come in, H2, beautiful, beautiful H2. He's going to be there with us on the panel. You will have seen us all. Thursday evening, you can join the three of us plus H2 for the second part of Path to the Playoffs, where I'm sure the results of this week's poll may briefly come up in conversation and subtly referenced throughout the evening by the winner. So that'll be really, really good fun. So please do join us for that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really, really excited the playoffs are back.
Very much so. One thing I would say is that we might not see the utter chaos that we might have a week ago in this particular competition, maybe, but that's still to be decided. But on its own right, the playoffs and draft mode in general often just chucks up random stuff anyway, and it's a lot of fun. So come and join us for that. Can I just confirm one thing with you guys? I mean, nobody's listening, it's fine, so we can talk just amongst ourselves for a
Of
second.
course.
Are we trying to take over? Is this going to be football manager therapy playoffs at some point? Are we just kind of infiltrating and putting all of us in panels and
So,
stuff?
as a host and director, unfortunately, we're contractually obliged to only mention the Football Manager Therapy Pod twice. But to
Ooh.
be fair, there is 3 of us, so we can mention it maybe 6 times.
Yeah,
I
twice
don't know
each.
which way. Yeah,
Twice each.
exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, we'll have the 4-minute ad reel during games, which will run out as well, where it just be highlights from each episode. But no, I think Path to the Playoffs is really exciting that the playoffs is back, like competitive. The pinnacle of a competitive football manager is coming back, and I'm excited to host again. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we've got to build again. We've got some extra stuff coming in this time around, and it's quite a tasty first group. You've got obviously Ali and Owen, who are the World Tag Team Champions. They're in the same group against each other. We've asked them all to do some promos as well, which obviously have already come out, and they're quite vicious against each other, which is just brilliantly delicious. And then we've got the anomaly that is Stinger, who is contractually obliged as being a sponsor of the FM players as part of the manager's seat. He's in as well, but we'll see how he gets on. He's been quite vocal about his dislike of the playoffs after he got booted out last time because his computer broke. Boo hoo again. I'll get the hands out. But there we are. But yeah, and then we've got some excellent new players coming in like Steak Bake, and then returning people like Henry and FM Trek as well, who have actually not seen the competitive scene at all on my experience. So I'm quite excited on that side of things.
There's a lot to look forward to with this path to the playoffs. You know, I've sat on both sides. You know, I've done it competitively. I've sat on panels, and it's an absolute joy. It is an absolute joy to take part in any capacity. And you know, even it's one of the rare things that even if I'm not taking part in it, I will sit and I will watch as much as I physically can because it's just such a well-run competition. The people behind the scenes are all wonderful. The the production value goes up month on month. So it's as Jeb rightly says, I think it's arguably the pinnacle of competitive PvP on Twitch in terms of football managers. So invest your time wisely, get involved, do some watching. You'll get to see the 3 of us plus H2, who's just dreamy. And yeah, plus on a personal level, I'm absolutely delighted to find out there's infighting between Ali and Owen. Which bodes really, really, really well for whoever's playing them. You know, whoever's challenging for the tag belts next is my opinion on that. So, you know, whoever that may be, it could be onto a winner there. Feeling excited about
There
that.
might be a sneaky another tag team coming in after that. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Who could it possibly be? Who could it possibly be?
Exactly.
But no, wait. I couldn't say anything else about it. I'm not in a position to comment.
Okay.
I'm probably playing Ali and Owen soon. But apart from those subtle clues, couldn't possibly say. Couldn't give any more information away, and I'm going to batter them. So cool. So that's going to be great fun. That's going to be great fun. Path to the playoffs,
Yeah, just
PvP, everything's fine.
Yeah, just to go through the list of competitors, so we got it fair. We've mentioned everyone, to be fair. So we've got Alistair, Stinger, Howler Owen, Gavin Brash, 32, FM Trek, Henry, Salty B, and the Steak Bake, making it, I think it's his competitive debut, let alone his playoffs debut. So I think he was
Wonderful.
in the backroom team of AJ and RK when he had his run in the last pass of the playoffs. So
Beautiful. Solid field that for the first FM playoff, or the first kind of for the first kind of playoff gameplay this year. That was a very, very, very entertaining field, and I'm looking forward to sitting back and watching it all unfold as part of the panel. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that's a podcast.
It's definitely been one of those.
you got a really good catchphrase there.
That is a good
You've been doing it
catchphrase.
week to week, haven't you? Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
there you go. Look at me. But
See?
Richard's got catchphrases.
Yeah.
Lovely. So before we go, this is where we just like to talk about ourselves a little bit and where you can find us. Kev, we'll go to you this week first, friend. If people want to watch you making that beautiful content that you make, where can they find you?
So you can find me at the United City FM, both on Twitter and Twitch. I'm on Twitch most weekday afternoons, 3 till 5 p.m., just a couple of hours. It's just like watching a movie. Come and sit in for a couple of hours. Then we all leave having had a wonderful, lovely time. So come and do that every weekday afternoon. Come and interact with me on Twitter and get your ideas in for the pod. If there are segments or thoughts or questions or anything else that you want, chuck it our way.
Beautiful stuff. Jeb, if they would like to watch you doing wonderful things with Italian football clubs, where can they watch you do that?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Jebaroo. Obviously, this week you can find me on Monday and Thursday on twitch.tv/the FM play. No, not the twitch.tv FM playoffs. And then on Twitter for myself, it's the Jebaroo. Rich, I'm going to hand to you now in a horrible segue.
Nice.
Boo.
Boo. Boo. Ruined everything. Yeah, you can find
I
me.
refuse to boo.
He's
just
booing
did.
into
Anyway.
he's booing internally. Yeah, you can find me twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM. And as Jeb points out, this week, Monday and Thursday, you can find me twitch.tv/FM playoffs. Don't worry, one of us will get it right. And also at Rich Owens FM on Twitter, where you can find me just saying words that have very, very little meaning. It's been an absolute joy this week. I've massively enjoyed myself. Thank you both very much for joining me. And thank you, audience, for joining us too, because without an audience, there is no podcast. There is, it's just not very good. Appreciate you all. And please come back and join us next week on another episode of Football Manager Therapy. Take care. Love you lots. Bye.